Hey guys, it's Miss Katz, and today we're going to do the work on the Unit 6 study guide. So hopefully that you will be completely prepared for your Unit 6 test this week. So let's jump right on in. We're going to start at the very beginning. We've got a couple of data points. Gave you a small set of data for this study guide just to make sure that you had the gist. But the first thing I would do with any set of data so that you can ensure that you can find every piece of information we might ask of it is to put it in numerical order. So if we do that, we have an 8, a 9, an 11, a 12, and a 15. The first question asks, what's the mean? And remember, the mean is the average. What is the average of these numbers? So in order to get that average, we plug it into the calculator. And we're going to, you also could add them by hand, but remember the mean is mean. It makes you do a ton of math. So we're going to add those numbers, and we get 55, and there happen to be 5 numbers here, so we'll divide by 5, which I hope you would know is 11. So the mean is 55 divided by 5, which equals 11. And don't forget on your test to give me this information. That way, if you accidentally misadded or you miscounted the number of terms in your data set, at least I can see where you were going and maybe give you some partial credit. All right, the median, just like the median in a road, is the middle number when those numbers are in order. So if you notice, there are it's an odd data set. So there are 5 pieces of data. We go to the number right before that, which is 4. And when we take half of that, we cut 2 off on one end and 2 off on the other. So our median will be 11. The mode is the number that shows up the most. It needs to repeat at least more than once. And in this set, every number is only represented once. There is no mode. There's no number that stands out among the rest. The range is the difference between the highest and the lowest number in the set of data. So our highest number is 15 and our lowest number is 8. So our range is 7. All right, using the histogram below, we have to answer questions 5 through 8. So number 5, how many flowers were less than 25 inches in height? Well, before we even tackle that problem, let's take a look at the data in our histogram here. There are 5 flowers, number of flowers, whose height was between 1 and 12 inches. There were 11 flowers whose height was between 13 and 24. There were 8 flowers between 25 and 36, and there were 3 flowers between 37 and 48. So how many flowers were less than 25 inches in height? We go to where the 25 bar starts, and we count from these 2 bars. So these 2 bars represent flowers that were less than 25 inches in height. And together, that's a total of 16 flowers. How many flowers are in the 25 to 36 interval? So we go to 25 to 36, and we notice we've already calculated that there were 8. How many flowers were at least 13 inches tall? So that means that this bar, and this bar, well, together that's 22. And which interval had the fewest number of flowers? That would be the interval between 37 and 48 inches. Those are really tall flowers. All right, for questions number 19 to 13, you have to indicate whether the question is statistical or not statistical. How many times has each of my classmates been to the beach? That is a statistical question. We will get multiple answers depending on the child we ask. How many kids does Mrs. Katz teach? Well, at any given moment, I only teach one number of students, so that is not a statistical question. How many pairs of pants does each of my family members own? That is statistical. Every person I ask in my house might have a different number of pants that they have in their closet. How many ice cream shops are in each town in Georgia? That is statistical because we're looking at each town, so it's going to vary depending on the town that we ask about. And how many songs are on Catherine's iPod? That is not statistical because it is a specific number at any given time. All right, we're going to use this dot plot to answer the questions below. And what is the mode of the data? So we're just simply going to look. There are 2 ones in our data, 1, 3. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of data that were 4s. There were 6 5s. There were 4 6s, and there were 3 7s. So the mode in our data is the number that shows up the most. 5 runs scored was the biggest number of, or the most often runs scored by a person. What is the range? Well, our highest piece of data was 7 and our lowest was 1. So the range is going to be 7 minus 1, which equals 6. Now the mean. the mean number of runs. Each of these X's represents a person who scored a certain number of runs. So here, these X's represent a 1 and a 1. This X represents a 3. I'm just writing out the data that was used to get this table. There were 5 fours. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, 5. There were 6 5s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 4 6s. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there were 3 7s. 1, 2, 3. Now that we have all of our data written out, we can actually compute that. Now, the fast way to compute that is if I have 2 1s, that means that this represents 2. If I have 1 3, this represents 3. If I have 5 4s, that's 20. So in other words, there were 20 runs scored by these 5 people. And here it's 30, and 6 times 4 is 24, and 7 times 3 is 21. And then we can add those numbers up. 2 plus 3 plus 20 plus 30 plus 24 plus 21. I get a grand total of 100. There were 100 runs scored here. And we're going to divide that by the total number of data points. Well, there's 2, 3, and 8, 14, 18, 21. So we're going to divide by 21. And that's approximately, we're going to estimate here, 4.76 runs. And I'm going to double check my math here. So again, we're going to add 2 plus 3 plus 20 plus 30 plus 24 plus 21. Because you never know. Sometimes when you punch things in the calculator, you miscount. That's 100. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21. So it'll be 100 divided by 21, and I rounded it to the nearest hundredth. If it doesn't list it, just make sure that whatever you round it to is accurate. All right, the last question on this page says, which measure of center is most affected by an outlier? That's going to be the mean. The mean is the best measure of center almost all the time, unless you have an outlier. In that event, the median is your best measure of center. And if your data is not numeric, then we want to use the mode as the best measure of center. All right, let's take a look at page number 2. We're going to use this box plot to answer the questions. Okay. This box plot represents the number of shoes sold per day at a given store. What percent of the data is greater than 69? So 69 is our Q1, which is our lower quartile. Okay. In the way that a box plot is set up, it is broken into 4 sections. Each section represents 25% of the data. And the box itself then actually represents 50% of our data. So if we want to know what percent of our data is greater than 69, well, there's 3 sets of data beyond 69, so it would be 75%. What is the median of the data? Remember, the median is that middle number in the box. So the median of our data is 82. What is the IQR? Well, the IQR is represented by the Q1, or Q3, which is our upper quartile, subtracted by our Q1, which is our lower quartile, so our Q3 minus Q1. In this case, it will be 92 minus 69. And just to make sure that I get that right, we're going to plug that into the calculator, since you guys will have that in your arsenal of tools tomorrow for your or this week for your test. And the answer will be 23. Which set of data could be used to create the box plot? So here's where we use a process of elimination. We know that our data ran from 60, that's our minimum, to 99, which is our maximum. So instantly I can cross out C because the maximum number is higher than 99. And I can cross off D because the minimum number is lower than 60. So we're down to these 2. And let's take a look at the difference in those data points. So what's our median here? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data points. So 69 is our middle number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we have another piece of data that's different. Our median in this case is 82, and in this case is 69. Well, if you go back to the box plot, our median is 82, so it has to be B. B is the only answer that works. All right, in question number 22, it asks how many total people were surveyed. You're literally going to count the dots. Each dot represents a person. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 people. We're going to use the box plot to answer these questions for 23 and 24. What is the interquartile range? Again, we take our Q1, which is 5.5. It's right between 5 and 6. And our Q3, which is 7. So it'll be 7 minus 5.5, which equals 1.5. Remember that an IQR, it's a range, but it's the range of the middle part of our data. So it's the range of the 50% of our data that happens to be in the middle. And what percents of participants scored more than 6 baskets? Well, 6 is our median. 25% of our data should fall here and 25% here. So that means 50% of our data was more than 6 baskets. All right, the 5-number summary of a box plot is shown below, where we give the minimum, the maximum, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and the median. They wanted to know what the IQR is. Again, the IQR is Q3 minus Q1. In this case, that's 26 minus 9. And 26 minus 9 is equal to 17. So 17 is our IQR. All right, and let's finish this up on the last page. We're going to use the histogram to answer the questions 26 and 27. So question 26 says, the histogram to the right shows the ages of the adults who went to see Black Panther. Which statement about the histogram is true? So it's asking, do most ages fall within the 60 to 70 range? Not really. And think about it, Black Panther probably was not a movie that was as appealing to that age group as it was to younger people. So that one's out. Most ages fall within the 20 to 30 range. That's another small interval here. No person fell within the 80 to 90 range. Well, that is true. There's a gap in our data. Nobody in the 80 to 90 range actually went to that movie. So that one should be true. And no person fell within the 50 to 60 range. Well, if you notice, that one's actually the highest number of people who came. So C is the correct answer here. It is the only one that works for that data. And we want to know how many more people who went to see Black Panther are in their 40s than in their 70s. Well, the 40-year-olds are right here. And there were, it looks like 4 of them. And in the 70 range, from 70 to 80, it looks like there was 1 person. So the difference between how many more was 3 people. All right, the data below represents the number of students missing a pencil in all the classrooms on 6B. Totally legit. People are missing pencils all the time. Please make sure that you come to school prepared with paper and pencil every day, and your MSG, and anything else we've asked. But we need to make a box plot. Well, before we can make a box plot, we know we need 5 numbers. We need a minimum, we need a Q1, we need a median, a Q3, and a maximum. So we got to find those pieces of data in our data set. Before I can find Q1, Q3, or the median, I must put the data in order. So I highly recommend as you do this that you give yourself a little mark to make sure you've taken care of all the numbers. So there's a 2, 2, 2, 2. I see a 3 and a 3. Your eyes can play tricks on you. So the more you mark them off so you can account for them, the better. The next lowest number, I think, is 5, and there are 2 of those. And then I've got 6. I've got 1 of those. I think the next number is 8. There's 2 of those. And then after that comes 10, and there's 1, 2, 3 10s. And then after that, it looks like I've got an 11 and a 16, and that should account for them all. But just to make sure, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pieces of data in my set. Let's make sure I counted 16 when I put them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's a pretty good indicator that I got them all. Well, from looking at this, my minimum is 2 and my maximum is 16. And again, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pieces of data. So we have to break up this in half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here's the middle of my data, which means 5 and 6 fall right in the middle. And if they fall right in the middle, to find their median, the median here, we have to add them and divide by 2. So 5 plus 6 is 11, and divide that by 2, you should get 5.5. So the median is 5.5. And the Q1 and the Q3s are derived from the half of the data. So there's 8 data points here. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our middle. And our Q1 is going to be derived from adding 2 plus 3, which is 5, divided by 2, which is 2.5. And our Q3 on this side of the data is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 10 and 10 are the middle points of our data. When you add them, that's 20, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. So to make our box plot, we need to make sure that we've got the minimum and the maximum on our graph. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That won't take me all the way to 16. So I'm going to count by 2s. So this is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. When we go to graph it, we put a dot for the endpoints. That's the minimum and the maximum. We're going to put a dot on there for the Q1. So that's, if this is 3, 2.5 is going to fall kind of right here. And our median is 5.5. So here's 5. 5.5 will be about here. And our Q3 is 10. Now we've got all 5 points. Remember that the whiskers come off the end. And the middle makes our box. Notice it's elevated above the number line. And we always make a line for the median. So find one measure of spread. Clearly identify which measure you're finding. I'm going to find the range. Okay. So for the range, it's going to be the maximum minus the minimum, which equals 14. If you wanted to find the IQR, because that's a measure of spread, remember that's what we're looking for, IQR would be the Q1 minus the Q3 minus the Q1. And when we subtract those, we find that we get 7.5. So either one is fine. Just make sure you clearly identify it. And find one measure of center. In this case, let's go with the median, right? We needed it anyway. And the median here is 5.5. You could find the mean if you want to add them all up and divide by 16. And the mode is actually a very simple one here too. There's 4 2s. The mode shows up most. I would not recommend finding the mean here. You can. Nothing wrong with it, but it's a lot more work than the other ones. And circle one of the choices below to describe the shape of the box plot. It is skewed to the right because something is drawing that data way down there where most of the data should be around here. Something's skewing that data to the right. All right, what are 3 measures of center? We're almost done with this guy. The mean, median, and mode. Those are our measures of center. Our measures of spread or variation are the range and the IQR. And how are our IQR and range similar? They are found by subtracting. And how are they different? The range covers all the data, whereas the IQR covers the middle 50% of the data. All right, guys, I hope this helps you all prepare for your test. Make sure that you've studied and you've checked it all over, and you guys should be all set.